The restaurant smelled like garlic and fresh bread, the kind of place where waiters fold napkins into swans and people celebrate anniversaries. I sat at the far end of a long table, 12 seats filled with my wife's college friends, their husbands, laughter bouncing off exposed brick walls. My water glass had condensation running down the side. I watched a single drop slide to the base. That's when I heard Rachel's voice cut through the noise. "Oh, Mark? He's unemployed right now. Pretty much useless around the house, too." The table went quiet for half a second, then erupted in sympathetic laughter, the kind that pretends to be supportive but lands like broken glass. I didn't shout. I didn't correct her. My hand stayed steady on that water glass, cool against my palm. I looked up, met her eyes. She was smiling. Not nervous, not apologetic, just smiling, like she'd made a perfectly reasonable joke. I set the glass down without drinking. My heart didn't race. It stopped. Then it started again, slower, deliberate. I didn't know it yet, but 3 people at that table knew exactly what I did for a living. One of them was about to change everything. Rachel had no idea what she'd set in motion. "My name is Mark Sullivan. I'm 51 years old. For 17 years, I'd worked in compliance and risk management for a multinational logistics firm. Not flashy work, not the kind that generates dinner party stories. I reviewed contracts, identified regulatory gaps, prevented million-dollar mistakes before they happened. I was the man who made sure the machine didn't break. People don't celebrate that. They just notice when it stops working." Rachel and I had been married for 19 years. On paper, we looked solid. 3-bedroom house in a decent suburb, 2 cars, joint accounts, family vacations to beaches with mediocre sand and overpriced seafood. But somewhere along the way, the marriage had become a performance we were both pretending to believe. She worked in marketing at a design agency, made good money, loved telling people about her campaigns, her creative team, her wins. I listened. I always listened. But my work? That never seemed worth mentioning. If I brought up a case I'd closed or a risk I'd caught, her eyes would glaze over mid-sentence. She'd check her phone or pivot to something she'd done that week. Once I'd saved the company $700,000 by catching a contract clause that would have triggered penalty fees. I told her at dinner. She said, "That's nice, babe," and kept scrolling Instagram. I let it go. I let a lot go. She started introducing me differently around year 15. At parties I was, "Mark, he works in, what is it, logistics?" With a little laugh, like the details didn't matter. At her work events I was, "My husband," no profession attached. I told myself it wasn't personal. She was proud of her work. That was fine. But there were small moments. She'd roll her eyes when I talked about spreadsheets. She'd make jokes about my boring job in front of her friends. I'd smile, shrug it off, grab another drink. That's what you do. You keep the peace. The night at the restaurant wasn't the first time she'd made that joke, but it was the first time she'd made it in front of David Chen. David sat 4 seats down from me, across the table, next to his wife Emily, one of Rachel's friends from grad school. He was scrolling his phone when Rachel said it. Unemployed. Useless. I saw his head snap up. His face didn't change much, but his jaw tightened. David was the chief operating officer of our company. He was my boss's boss's boss. We'd been in meetings together dozens of times. We weren't friends exactly, but we had mutual respect. He knew what I did. He knew what I was worth. He set his phone down slowly. I watched him process it. Emily, his wife, leaned toward Rachel and said something about how hard the job market was right now, how stressful unemployment must be. Rachel nodded, squeezed my hand across the table. "He's trying, though, sending out resumes." Her voice had that practiced sympathy. I didn't pull my hand away. I didn't correct her. I just sat there, watching the condensation pool under my water glass, feeling the weight of David's stare. After dessert, I excused myself to the restroom. When I came back, David was standing near the bar waiting. He didn't smile. He just looked at me and said, "You want to tell me what that was about?" I shook my head. "Not here." He nodded. "Monday, my office, 8 a.m. I drove home alone that night. Rachel stayed late with her friends, texting me that she'd catch an Uber. I sat in the driveway for 20 minutes before going inside, engine off, staring at the garage door. My chest felt tight, like something had been locked inside for years, and the key had just turned. I didn't feel angry, I felt focused. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. I didn't sleep much that weekend. I sat in my home office, door closed, and started organizing. I pulled up bank statements, reviewed credit card transactions, downloaded tax returns. I wasn't frantic, I was methodical. I took screenshots of text threads where Rachel had bragged to her friends about her salary, about the things she'd bought, about the vacations she'd planned without asking me. I organized them into folders by date. I logged into our joint investment account and noted every transfer, every withdrawal, every reallocation she'd made without discussing it. Sunday afternoon, I called my attorney. Guy named Paul, older man, handled a colleague's divorce 2 years back. I told him I needed a consultation. He said Tuesday worked. I said I'd be there. Monday morning, I arrived at David's office at 7:58. He was already there, coffee steaming on his desk, door open. He gestured me in, closed the door behind me. He didn't sit, neither did I. I need to understand what happened Friday night, he said, because either you've been lying to me about your employment status or your wife has. She doesn't know what I do, I said. Not really. She knows I work here. She doesn't know what I do here. David stared at me. You stopped the Kellerman contract breach. You caught the Singapore compliance gap. You personally saved this company millions, and she thinks you're unemployed? She thinks my job doesn't matter, I said, so she stopped paying attention. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What do you need from me?" "Nothing," I said. "I just wanted you to know it wasn't personal." What she said. "It felt personal," David said. He leaned against his desk. "Look, I'm not going to get involved in your marriage, but I am going to tell you something. If you ever need documentation of your employment, your salary, your performance record, for any reason, legal or otherwise, you come to me. Understood?" I nodded. Understood. He handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter, on company letterhead, outlining my title, tenure, salary, and a list of major cases I'd handled. Dated that morning. "Just in case," he said. I left his office at 8:20. I called Paul from the parking lot and moved the appointment to that afternoon. Tuesday, Paul and I sat in a conference room that smelled like old coffee and leather binders. He took notes while I walked him through the timeline. The dismissiveness, the public humiliation, the financial decisions she'd made without consultation. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You've been documenting this for a while." "Just the last few days," I said. "You work fast." He tapped his pen on the table. "What do you want the outcome to be?" "Fair," I said. "I want it to be fair." He nodded. "Then let's make sure it is." Over the next 3 weeks, I moved like a man dismantling a stage set. Carefully, quietly. I opened a separate bank account and rerouted my direct deposit. I changed my passwords. I cataloged our shared assets, the house, the cars, the investment accounts, the furniture we'd bought together. I made copies of everything. I didn't tell Rachel. I didn't tell anyone except Paul. Rachel noticed something was different, but she couldn't name it. I came home later. I spent more time in my office. I stopped engaging when she complained about work or vented about her friends. She asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, just busy. She didn't press. She never did. The text started around week 2. Her friend Emily had apparently mentioned something to her. Rachel's messages came in fast, frantic. "Did you say something to David Chen? Why is Emily asking me about your job? What's going on?" I didn't respond. I took screenshots and forwarded them to Paul. The bank alerts started in week 3. Rachel tried to transfer $15,000 from our joint savings to her personal account. The transaction was blocked. I'd placed a hold on all withdrawals over $500 pending dual authorization. My phone buzzed with her call. I let it go to voicemail. She left 4 messages that day, each one sharper than the last. I saved them all. By the end of the month, I had everything I needed. Paul filed the papers on a Thursday afternoon. Rachel was served at her office Friday morning. I wasn't there. I was in a meeting, reviewing a new vendor contract, when my phone buzzed with her call. I checked the time. 10:43 a.m. I sent it to voicemail. She came home that night shaking. I was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, reviewing Paul's proposed settlement terms. She threw the envelope onto the table. Papers scattered. Her voice was raw. "What the hell is this, Mark?" I looked up. "It's a divorce petition." "I can see that." She was pacing now, hands in her hair. "Why? What did I do?" I closed the laptop. "You called me unemployed and useless in front of 12 people. 4 of them work in my industry. One of them is my boss's boss's boss." Her face went pale. "That was a joke." "It wasn't funny." "Mark, come on." She sat down across from me, reaching for my hand. I pulled it back. "I didn't mean it like that. You know I didn't." "I know you didn't think about it at all," I said. "That's the problem." She cycled through it fast. Denial first. "You're overreacting." Then anger. "You're really going to throw away 19 years over one comment?" Then bargaining. "I'll apologize. I'll tell everyone I was wrong. I'll fix it." I waited until she stopped. Then I slid a folder across the table. Inside were the screenshots, the bank statements, the credit card bills, the investment transfers. "This isn't about one comment," I said. "This is about 19 years of me not mattering enough to remember." She opened the folder. I watched her face change as she read. Confusion, recognition, fear. "You've been planning this," she whispered. "I've been paying attention," I said. "But you never said anything. You never told me you were unhappy." "I told you 100 times," I said. "You just never heard me." Her hands were shaking now. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. For the first time in years, I saw something real in her face. Not performance, not defensiveness, just fear. "Mark, please, don't do this. We can fix this." "Maybe we could have," I said. "A year ago, 5 years ago, but not now." I stood up. She stood too, blocking the doorway. "Where are you going?" "Out." "You can't just leave." "I can," I said, "and I am." I walked past her. She didn't follow. I heard her crying as I closed the front door behind me. My chest felt tight again, but different this time. Not locked, open, raw, clean. I stayed in a hotel that night. Nothing fancy, just a room with a bed and a window that faced the parking lot. I sat on the edge of the bed and called Paul. "She got the papers." "How'd she take it?" "About how you'd expect." "She'll call you," Paul said. "Don't answer. If she shows up, don't engage. Let me handle it." Understood. The next 2 weeks were a war fought in silence. Rachel called 17 times. I didn't answer. She sent 34 text messages. I forwarded them to Paul. She showed up at my hotel once. I watched from the window as she knocked on the door. I didn't open it. She left after 10 minutes. Her attorney reached out to Paul. They wanted to negotiate. Paul sent back our terms. Equitable division of assets, no alimony, clean break. Her attorney countered. We countered back. It went on like that for 3 weeks. Then David called me. "I got a call from someone claiming to be Rachel's attorney, asking about your employment status, your salary, your job performance." "What'd you tell them?" "I told them to submit a formal request in writing, and I'd respond through our legal department." He paused. "Mark, I also sent them a copy of your performance review from last quarter. The one where I personally recommended you for promotion. Just thought they should have all the facts." I didn't know what to say. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," David said. "Just keep doing what you do. We need you here." The mediation happened in a conference room downtown, 5th floor, windows overlooking the river. Rachel sat across from me, her attorney next to her, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes in a sharper suit. Paul sat next to me. We'd been there an hour, going through assets line by line. Rachel kept looking at me, trying to catch my eye. I kept mine on the documents. Her attorney slid a revised proposal across the table. My client is willing to accept a 60-40 split in your favor, provided Mr. Sullivan agrees to cover her legal fees and provides a written statement retracting any defamatory claims about her character. Paul didn't even look at it. No. Excuse me? My client made no defamatory claims, Paul said. He filed for divorce based on irreconcilable differences. That's not defamation. That's fact. Rachel's attorney started to respond, but Rachel cut her off. Mark, please, just talk to me. Look at me. I looked up. Her eyes were red. She looked exhausted. You really want to do this? Throw everything away? You threw it away, I said, when you decided I didn't matter enough to defend, when you made me a punchline in front of people who signed my paychecks, when you spent 19 years treating my work like a hobby you tolerated. I didn't know, she said, her voice cracked. I didn't know it mattered that much to you. That's the problem, I said. You never asked. She was crying now, real tears, not performance. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just acknowledgement. She wasn't a villain. She was just someone who'd stopped seeing me a long time ago. And I'd let her. I turned to Paul. What's fair? 50-50 split of all marital assets, he said. No alimony. Each party covers their own legal fees. Clean break. I looked at Rachel. That work for you? She wiped her eyes, nodded. Yeah, that works. We signed the papers that afternoon. I walked out of that conference room at 4:15. The air outside was cool, sharp, clean. I stood on the sidewalk for a long time, just breathing. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt unburdened. 3 months later, I stood in the kitchen of a studio apartment I'd rented across town. Morning light came through the window, soft and pale. I made coffee in a French press I'd bought at a thrift store, poured it into a mug I didn't have to share. The apartment was small, quiet, mine. I'd changed the locks on every account, deleted her contact, filed the last of the paperwork. It was done. I sat by the window and watched the sun come up over the buildings. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Promotion's official. Congrats. You earned it. I set the phone down and drank my coffee. I thought about that night at the restaurant, the garlic smell, the condensation on the glass, Rachel's smile when she called me useless. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel anything except steady. Silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's preparation. Sometimes it's the moment you stop performing and start building something real. I didn't win anything. I just stopped pretending to lose. If you'd been in my place, would you have spoken up that night? Or would you have let the silence do the work? Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Your presence means more than you know. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe. Let's keep walking this road together.